Today's learning target is I can divide positive and negative integers. Just like with multiplication, when we are dividing, we're going to find that we have some rules. So remember, when you see the word quotient, okay, right here is quotient. That means the answer to a division problem. So the quotient, or the answer to a division problem, of two integers, two numbers, with different signs is going to be negative. Okay, so it's just like multiplication. When we multiplied and we had one positive and one negative, the answer was always negative. Same thing with division. Okay, so we're given a couple of examples here. It has 33 divided by negative 11. Okay, so if I just did 33 divided by 11, that would give me 3. And there's one negative and a positive here, so my answer is going to be negative. Okay, same thing here. One negative, one positive, so my answer is going to be negative. Okay, so it doesn't matter what it was. If I had 25 and I divided that by negative 5. Okay, and then I would say, in this case, all right, 25 divided by 5 is 5, but I see that I have one negative and one positive, so my answer is going to be negative. If I had, let's say 8, let's say I had negative 8, and I divided it by 2, okay, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and I see I have one negative and one positive, so when that's the case, my answer is always going to be negative. So again, just like multiplication, the quotient, so the answer to a division problem where the two integers or the two numbers have the same sign, your answer is always going to be positive, just like when we multiplied. When we multiply a negative and a negative, it equals a positive, right? Same thing for the division, okay? So you already know a problem like this. 15 divided by 5, that's going to equal 3. Okay, now we never really think about this being a positive number and this being a positive number, but it is. Positive and a positive, it's going to equal a positive. In this case, though, if we had a negative 64 and divided it by a negative 8, okay, so in that case, 64 divided by 8 would give me 8, and it's a negative and a negative, so my answer is going to be positive. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the numbers would be. I could have a negative, let's go negative 14, and let's divide that by a negative 7. Okay, so I see that I have a negative here and a negative here. That means my answer is going to be positive. I could write it like that with a positive sign. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So it's going to be positive 2. Or I could just write it 2. Okay. If I did 64 divided by 8, they're both positive. My answer is going to be positive 8. Here are a couple of problems that I'm going to do to show how this might look. So just a reminder, when you see a problem like this, okay, so it looks like a fraction, it is a fraction, but this also means divided by. So this is the same as 25 divided by negative 5. So it's exactly the same divided by negative 5 as this. Okay, so I know that that's going to be 25 divided by 5 is 5. And I see one negative, so it's going to be negative. Okay, so here it's 28 divided by 4. Okay, so I know 28 divided by 4 is 7, and I see one negative, so it's going to be negative 7. Okay, here I'm going to have to do a little bit of figuring here. So anywhere, when I see a problem like this, I can substitute x for 9. And where I find a y, I'm going to substitute that for negative 6. So this problem looks like 9 times a negative 6, okay, and then divided by 6. So if I do this, I get 54. 9 times 6 is 54, and I see that there's one negative, so it's negative 54 divided by 6. And okay, so when I think about this, if I'm not sure about what 54 divided by 6 is, I could always do what times 6 would equal 54. And I know 9 times 6 is 54, so that would work. And I notice there's one negative, so my answer is going to be negative. So the answer to that would be negative 9. Let's take a look at how this problem would look here. So in this case, it says the average temperature in January for the North Pole, Alaska, is negative 22.4 degrees C, which stands for Celsius. Use the expression, here's our expression, 9C plus 160 divided by 5, where C represents the number of degrees Celsius, to find this temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So when I have a problem like this, first thing I want to do, I want to look at it and I want to see, okay, what does this C stand for? Make sure I understand that. So C is going to represent, it's the number of degrees Celsius, okay, and I'm using this expression to find the temperature in Fahrenheit. So if I were going to do this, I would, where this C is, I'm going to put the degrees Celsius, okay? So I'm going to add this number into the expression. So this would look like 9, and then C, the degrees Celsius is negative 24.4. Okay, then I would add 160, and then I divide that by 5. Okay, and that is going to give me an answer to find the temperature in Fahrenheit. So I could type this into my calculator here, or I could solve this, and I would have that answer.